Hi, welcome to the Pharmacy Insights Podcast. I'm Ryan Perkins, VP of Artificial Intelligence Capabilities at Optum Rx, and today I'm here with my colleague Sarah Greenwell, Senior Director of Digital Product at Optum, to talk about AI and the member experience. Sarah, let's go ahead and jump right in. AI, it's everywhere right now, but why is it so important to connect AI to the member experience?
I think the reason is because AI really only matters if it makes something better for the person on the other end. A member is not thinking, I really hope my pharmacy benefit experience uses AI. They're thinking, can I get my medication? Can I understand what this costs? Can I figure out what I'm supposed to do next? So for me, the connection between AI and the member experience is really a practical one. Can we make things easier? Can we make the experience feel less confusing? Can we help people get to the right answer faster?
Yeah, and that is exactly where the strategy has to land. From an AI strategy perspective, we can talk about models and capabilities and automation, but ultimately the real question is, what problem are we really solving? And AI gives us a chance to take a lot of complexity that sits behind the scenes and really turn it into something more useful, more timely, and more actionable for members.
Right. I think that's the key. The members shouldn't have to understand all of the complexity underneath. The experience should do more of the work for them. Ryan, you're leading AI strategy while I lead the member experience work in AI. Can we talk about how those two perspectives come together?
Sure. I think of it as two sides of the same coin. My role is more about the AI strategy, where it can create value, how it scales, how we govern it, how we make sure it's responsible and ultimately aligned to the broader direction. But that strategy cannot live in a vacuum. It has to connect to real experiences.
Yes, I think that's where our partnership's really important. So you're thinking about the enterprise strategy and the capabilities, and I'm thinking about how those capabilities actually show up for a member. Because we can have a really great AI strategy, but if the member still feels confused, delayed, or bounced around, then we haven't solved the right problem.
That's exactly right. And I think your lens keeps the work extremely grounded. It pushes us to ask, is this actually useful? Does this make the experience better for our consumers? Does this build trust?
And I would say your lens makes sure we're not just solving one isolated experience. We're thinking about how to build this responsibly and at scale.
Yes, exactly. So let's switch gears. Sarah, from a broader perspective, what is the core member problem AI can help solve? And can you talk about some of the early capabilities your team is building?
Sure. The simple answer is healthcare asks the consumer to do too much. Members have to interpret letters, understand coverage, figure out their cost. They're checking their prescription status, calling for help. Sometimes they're repeating information, comparing their options, and sometimes they still leave without a clear answer. A great example is the work that we're doing with Optum Assistant, where my team's responsible for translating those AI capabilities into a member experience that helps people understand their pharmacy benefits, manage their medications, and get answers in a way that feels simple and connected.
And what AI can help with is really connecting information that is often fragmented. A lot of the answers exist somewhere, but they may not be easy to find, easy to understand, or available at the right moment.
Yes, and that right moment part is everything. A member does not need an answer 3 steps later. They need it when they're trying to make a decision. Is this covered? Why did my coverage change? Is there another option? What happens next? That's where AI can help us move from just responding to members to actually guiding them.
Yeah, and that's a really good distinction. It's not just answering the question, it's helping someone move through the experience with a lot more confidence.
A lot of people hear AI and immediately wonder if it's about replacing humans. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I understand why people ask that, but I do not think the best use of AI in healthcare is replacing people. I think it's reducing the work that does not need to be manual, so people can focus on the work that really requires judgment, empathy, and problem solving. We often talk about that in terms of employees working at the top of their license. There are so many areas where AI can help, summarizing information, routing someone to the right place, finding relevant answers, identifying patterns, or ultimately helping an advocate prepare for a conversation.
This is exactly how I think about it too. For me, AI should be a consumer accelerator, not a human replacement strategy. It should help members get to answers faster. It should help them understand their options faster. It should help them take action faster. But we're not trying to remove human support from the moments where people need it most.
Right. And sometimes AI can actually make the human interaction better.
Yes, if AI can take some of the friction out of the process, the searching, the repeating, the status checking, then our people can spend more time actually helping. So the goal is not to take humanity out of healthcare. The goal is to take the friction out of healthcare.
Yeah, so Sarah, let's switch gears a little bit. You've talked about proactive service. Can you say more about what that means in this context?
Sure. To me, proactive service means that we stop waiting for the member to hit a wall. A lot of service today is reactive. Something goes wrong, the member gets confused, the cost is surprising, or the refill is delayed. Maybe the letter doesn't make sense. And then the member has to reach out. Proactive service instead asks, what could we have done sooner?
Yeah, and that is where AI becomes really interesting because AI can help us see those patterns, the timing, the signals, and likely needs earlier than we could in a purely manual process.
Yes, exactly. And I want to be careful because proactive does not mean sending people a bunch of random messages. That is not helpful. Proactive means the support is relevant, it's timely, it helps the member avoid confusion or take the next step. So it could be your refill is coming due, or there may be a lower cost option, or something like this prescription needs one more step, and here is where what is happening, or even here's what you can do before you get to the pharmacy counter. That's very different from waiting for frustration and then trying to fix it.
Yeah, and strategically, that's a big shift. It moves us from a service model that's mostly response-based and reactive to one that's more anticipatory and guided. So the next topic we want to discuss, Sarah, are there examples outside healthcare that influence how you and your team think about improving the member experience?
Yes, that's a great question. Apple is one that I think about a lot. So Apple didn't go from good to great only because the products were beautiful. The products mattered, of course, but the experience around the product really became part of the trust. And so when you use an Apple product, the setup is intuitive. The ecosystem all works together. And even if something goes wrong, you know exactly where to go. And over time, Apple's become very proactive. So your phone tells you when your storage is low, or it reminds you about your software updates, gives you battery health information. And those experiences build trust because it feels like they're actually thinking one step ahead.
Yeah, I like that experience a lot because it shows the trust is built in small moments, not just the big ones.
Yes, exactly. It's not one giant service moment. It's a series of little moments where the customer thinks, okay, this works. I understand what to do and I feel supported. And I'm not saying healthcare should copy Apple. Healthcare is so much more personal, more regulated, and more complex, but the principle absolutely applies. Great service is not just solving the problem after someone complains. Great service is anticipating the need before the person even has to struggle.
Very well said. And from an AI strategy perspective, that is the opportunity. How do we use AI to make the experience more intelligent, more connected, and more proactive without making it feel intrusive?
Right. Helpful, not creepy. Guided, not overwhelming. That is the balance.
So, Sarah, another question for you. Curious your thoughts on how we keep AI from making the experience feel less human.
Yes, the best AI experience to me is probably one where the member doesn't think about AI at all. They just think that was easier than I expected, or I understood what to do, or I did not have to start over. That's really the goal.
I agree. AI should not become another layer people have to fight through.
Yes, if AI becomes a wall between the member and the help that they need, that's a bad experience. But if AI helps clarify the issue, brings context forward, explains the next step, and creates a smoother handoff to a human when it's needed, then it can actually make the experience feel more human.
That is a really important point. AI is not the relationship, it supports the relationship.
Yes, and it should make that relationship better, not more distant.
So let's talk a little bit about personalization. Personalization is a word that everyone is using. What does it actually mean for members from your perspective, Sarah?
Yeah, personalization cannot just mean putting someone's name at the top of a message. Real personalization means that the experience understands the situation. So, why is the member here? Are they trying to fill a medication for the first time? Are they worried about cost? Are they trying to understand coverage? Trying to avoid a delay, maybe? Have they called once already? Are they caring for a child or a parent? Those details matter.
And AI can help make that kind of context more usable. It can help understand intent. It can connect the data. It can guide the next best action for the member.
Yes. And I think the key is that personalization has to feel useful. A generic answer may be technically correct, but still not helpful. And a personalized experience says, given where you are right now, here is what matters, and here's what you can do next.
And it ultimately has to be responsible. We have to use data appropriately. We have to protect privacy, and we have to make sure that we're not crossing the line from helpful to being intrusive.
Yes, totally. That sweet spot is where the member feels understood and not watched.
So, Sarah, where do you see the first real opportunities for AI to improve the member experience? You mentioned Optum Assistant earlier. Can we just elaborate a bit further on that?
Sure. Honestly, I think some of the biggest opportunities are in those everyday moments. Things like, where's my prescription? Why did my cost change? Is this covered? Is there a lower cost option? Can I use home delivery? What does this letter mean? And especially, what do I do next? Those are exactly the kinds of questions we're focused on solving through Optum Assistant today. We intentionally started with the moments that create the most confusion and friction because making those experiences faster and easier can have an outsized impact on how members feel about their pharmacy benefits. And those may not sound flashy, but they are the moments that shape how members feel about the experience.
That is a really important point. Sometimes people want to jump straight to the most advanced use cases, but there is tremendous value in solving common friction at scale.
Exactly. If we can make those basic moments clearer and faster, that's really meaningful. And then over time, the biggest opportunity is connecting those moments so the experience feels less fragmented.
And that's where strategy and experience come together. We start with the places where AI can safely and clearly reduce friction, then build towards a more connected journey. So, Sarah, affordability is another topic, and it's a major concern for members. How can AI help there, in your opinion?
Affordability is a great example because it's not just about the final dollar amount. It's about whether the member understands what's happening and what options they have. A member may not know there's a lower cost alternative. They may not know whether home delivery could help. They may not know whether a different pharmacy option matters. They may not understand why something changed. AI can help bring the right information forward earlier.
And that is a place where context really matters. The answer may depend on the member's plan, medication, pharmacy, timing, and available alternatives.
Right. And the goal is not to overwhelm the member with every possible option. It's to make the most relevant options clear at the right time. So instead of a member being surprised at the pharmacy counter, we should be asking, could we have helped them understand this sooner?
And that is where AI can help turn complexity into guidance.
Exactly. Not more information for the sake of information, better guidance.
Sarah, another concern is adherence. Can AI help with medication adherence or help members stay on therapy?
Yes, but I think we have to be thoughtful about how we talk about this. So staying on therapy is not always about forgetting. Sometimes the issue is cost, sometimes it's side effects, sometimes it's access, and sometimes the member is confused. And then sometimes life just gets in the way. AI can actually help us better understand what kind of barrier might be present and therefore what kind of support may actually help.
And that is ultimately the difference between generic engagement and intelligent engagement.
For sure. For one member, a refill reminder may be enough. For another, the issue may be affordability. And for another, the right step may be connecting them with a pharmacist or a care resource. So I don't think the goal is more outreach. The goal is more relevant outreach.
Yeah, well said. And that is where responsible design matters. AI can help identify signals and suggest support, but we need clear guardrails for when human or clinical expertise needs to be involved.
Yes, completely agree. AI can help us get smarter about support, but it should not oversimplify the human reality behind why people do or do not stay on therapy. So, Ryan, what about the employees and teams serving members? How does AI help them?
Yeah, there's a big opportunity there. AI can reduce the time employees spend searching across multiple systems, summarizing information. If an advocate in our call center or pharmacist starts working with better information, they can have a better conversation with the member.
Yes. And I always say the member experience and the employee experience are very connected. If our teams are fighting the tools, the member feels that. And if our teams have the right information at the right time, the member feels that too. AI can help our people be more prepared. It can summarize what has already happened. It can surface the next best action and reduce the need for the member to repeat themselves. And that's huge because one of the most frustrating experiences for any consumer is having to explain the same problem over and over again.
And that's a great way to put it, Sarah. So again, this is ultimately not a human replacement story, as we talked about earlier. It's a human enablement story.
Yes, exactly. And it helps people serve people better. So, what concerns you most if AI is implemented poorly?
Trust ultimately is the biggest concern. If AI gives inconsistent, inaccurate, or poorly governed answers, the trust will erode really quickly. In healthcare, we have to be especially disciplined. Privacy, security, bias, explainability, accountability, those are not off the side of the desk issues. They are central to doing this responsibly.
Yes. From the member experience side, my biggest worry is AI becoming another barrier. So, if a member is trying to get help and AI makes them feel trapped or dismissed, misunderstood, then we've made the experience worse.
And that is where governance and experience design have to work together.
Yes, because an answer can be technically correct and still not helpful. So the test I come back to is, did this reduce effort? Did it build confidence? Did it help the member move forward? And if not, we have to rethink it.
So, Sarah, if this ultimately works, what does good actually look like for the member and the consumer?
Good looks like less effort. The member gets an answer faster. They understand what's happening. They know what to do next. They do not have to repeat themselves and they are not bounced between channels. The experience feels like it has some memory and some common sense applied.
And from my side, good also means the experience is ultimately scalable, it's consistent, and like we've talked about before, responsible. It cannot just work in one narrow use case. It has to be something that we can build on.
Yes. And if we do it really well, the member may never say, that was great AI. They'll just say, that was easy, or I understood what to do. I felt supported. That's the win.
And that is probably the biggest measure of success. The technology ultimately disappears right into the experience.
That is the goal. Can you talk about what is the bigger vision for AI in the member experience?
The bigger vision is a more intelligent, connected healthcare experience. AI can help bring the information together. It can anticipate needs. It can support better decisions and create more consistent experiences across channels. But we have to do that with discipline. We need ambition, but we also need responsibility.
And from the member side, the bigger vision is that people feel less alone in the system. Healthcare can feel like a series of disconnected moments, a letter here, a call there, a pharmacy counter issue, a portal message, a benefit question. And AI gives us the opportunity to connect those moments and make the experience feel more guided.
And that is a good way to say it, connected, but ultimately still very personal.
Exactly. Not automated for the sake of automation, guided in a way that feels useful. For me, success is when the member feels I understand what's happening, I know what I can do next, and I feel supported. Before we go, what is one thing you would want people to remember?
I would say AI is a powerful tool, but it only matters if it creates real value. As we've talked about through the course of this podcast, it has to improve the experience. It needs to support better decisions and ultimately be used responsibly.
And I would say AI should help us take friction out of healthcare, not the humanity out of healthcare. That's the whole point. AI should help members get answers faster, understand choices more clearly, and take action with more confidence. It should help our people focus on the moments where human support matters most. AI should make the experience feel easier, more proactive, and more connected, not colder or more complicated, and definitely not less human.
That is the balance. Thanks, Sarah, for joining me on the OptumRx Pharmacy Insights podcast.